Directly after this, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side, while he would send the crowds away. After sending the crowds away, he went up in the hills by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone while the boat, by now far out on the lake, was battling with a heavy sea, for there was a head wind. In the fourth watch of the night, he went towards them walking on the lake. And when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But at once Jesus called to them, saying, "Courage, it is I, do not be afraid." It was Peter who answered. "Lord," he said, "if it is you, tell me to come to you across the water." "Come," said Jesus. Then Peter got out of the boat and started walking towards Jesus across the water. But as soon as he felt the force of the wind, he took fright and began to sink. "Lord, save me," he cried. Jesus put out his hand at once and held him. "Man of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And as they got into the boat, the wind dropped. The men in the boat bowed down before him and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." We're all really familiar with this story, and most of us immediately click into Peter's fear and his lack of courage and lack of faith and think, "Oh yes, that's like me, I need Jesus to save me." But I wonder if we could look at it in a different way. Here are the disciples in a boat, and it's the middle of the night, so it's dark, they're probably cold, although I don't know, maybe it was summer over there at that stage, but I know in winter in Israel it's cold. And suddenly the waves and the wind get too much for them, and they're really afraid. And I guess a lot of them were probably thinking, how are we going to get out of this? And suddenly they see a figure out on the water, and it looks like Jesus. And they think, "Oh my goodness, it can't be, it's a ghost." And the figure calls out to them. And Peter replies and says, "Yeah, I'll come. And he gets out, and of course he starts to sink. And so Jesus saves him. The actual message is not about Peter's lack of faith. It's more about Jesus' power and the fact that he was God, and it was his authority over the elements that is really being tried to be shown to us at this stage. A lot of the scripture commentators would tell us that the boat represents the church, and so we're in the church, and sometimes we feel we're in a headwind and we're not getting anywhere, and it's dark and it's terrible, and Jesus kind of appears and says, "Hey, I'm here with you, don't worry." And actually notice that Jesus is out of the boat, not in the boat. So Jesus is out there looking after people and calling us to join him. So sometimes we have to get out of our safety zone and go out and join Jesus in building the kingdom, in helping people, in reaching out to others who are not part of us. So maybe this week we could have a look out around us as we go through the week and say, who is it who's round me who maybe needs a helping hand, a reach out, a listening ear, a service which I don't normally provide for them. And it may be someone in my own family, or it may be someone I meet, maybe someone in the neighbourhood. It may be a new refugee family. Let's be actively looking for those who are not in our boat that we can reach out to.